Okay, so we are newly back in public session after being in executive session. And just to reiterate, under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. And are we going out live also?
Yeah.
So we're going out live as well. So first would be administrative items for Prestige Auto, file number 19-008 SPA, as-built report, close and release consultant review fees.
For this account, we have the account has $2,017.35 outstanding. SW Cole has signed off on the as-built review, and so we're waiting on the last bill for this consultant review, and after that last bill comes in, we can release the consultant review account, so it'll be whatever the difference is, minus the bill from SW Cole.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to release the inspection funds of $2,000 plus interest for site plan review, auto repair, auto body, auto detailing, auto financing office, Forge Road, Westport, Mass, map 28, lot 20 and 20L, after all invoices are paid in full.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, next up, we need to endorse the Mylar for 1429 Main Road. Do we
We
have?
can put it to the end of the, at the end of the year.
We'll do it at the end of the meeting.
Yep.
Okay, next are public hearings. Planners report.
Good. A quick update on the short-term rental committee. The committee met on, a couple of weeks ago on October 7th, I guess that was last Monday, to regroup after the bylaw proposal had failed, and we've also had a number of new committee members shuffled around off the committee, and a couple of new committee members added, so need to reconvene that committee. And what was discussed at the last meeting was to have a sort of self-certification process for short-term rentals in town, where they would be a permitted use in all zoning districts, and it would be, you would have to open up a certification with the building department, and then the select board would issue a license, essentially, in order to operate on an annual basis. So that's the concept right now that was discussed at that committee meeting. There's not anything on paper yet. Roger Menard wanted to talk a little bit about this approach and what would be, what our town council would advise for structuring that approach. And the next meeting will be on October 21st at 6:30. I don't know the location yet, though. Alright, next we have our hazard mitigation plan. Just a reminder that we have a public engagement session at the library at 6 p.m. on Thursday. Any members of the public are welcome to join that. We'll have a number of representatives across the town, planning board, conservation commission, and so on. An update on our assistant planner job posting. We've received 6 applications so far. So I'd like permission from the board to review those applications with Chair Jim Whiten, to then set up interviews with the top 3 candidates, and then hopefully select a candidate after we do those interviews.
Do you need a vote on that?
I would like a.
Yeah, I think we should, yeah.
I would move that selecting the top 3 for,
Interviews.
for interviews.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let me fit one last update in here. This is a quick one. Our online, our online permitting system is online essentially now. It's not available to the public yet. We have a beta site for the planning office and the building department to review and begin experimenting with different workflows in there, looking at what will work, what doesn't work, what we need. Right now, it's mostly up to the building department to tell me and the consultant what their expectations are for having that structured. So we're hoping to get that online sometime soon. And we can start at 6:15.
Okay, we have a 6:15 public hearing for Little Compton Housing Trust, file number 24-028C-RRL. The applicant is proposing to use their existing 50-foot right-of-way for access and utilities to the Little Compton land to construct a 4-lot, single-family housing development located at 245 Old Harbor Road, map 86, lot 6. I think that's a little misleading because the housing development will be in Little Compton. It's just the road that we're talking about. The applicant submitted revised plans on Friday, and there was insufficient time to review them. Burris recommends continue it until November 19th at 6:15. So is there anybody here from the applicant's perspective?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So I would, I guess, entertain not the details, but just an overview of what you're proposing, because we don't have our consultant review on the plans, so we couldn't approve it. But since there's some people here from both the applicants, and I recognize some people from the neighborhood, they would like to, I'm sure, hear what you have plans. So,
Mr. Chairman, I just want to correct. The consulting engineer has reviewed the first iteration of the applicant's plans.
okay,
We've since sent that back to them in hopes that we were able to incorporate a second set of revisions prior to this meeting, but they were sent, I think on Thursday or Friday, and because it was a holiday weekend, we just didn't have the time to review it. So we'll be referring to the applicant's first set of plans that were submitted with the original application.
okay. So are you okay with doing
Yeah,
this way?
absolutely.
Okay. All right, so applicants, please come up to the podium and introduce yourselves. Name and address.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Patrick Bowen. I live at 225A Long Highway in Little Compton. I am the chair of the Little Compton Housing Trust, who within the last month closed on the piece of property in Little Compton. The Housing Trust has retained the services of Able Engineering to do the necessary work that we're here for tonight. So Donald Medeiros is the owner of Able Engineering, and I'll let him take over from here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, I'm Donald Medeiros from Able Engineering, 291 Long Highway in Little Compton. We prepared the plans and application that's before you tonight. Basically, just to give a very brief overview, it's a piece of land in Little Compton, which is owned by the Little Compton Housing Trust, 4.9 acres, which is located, here's the state line in this area, so Little Compton is to the west. Old Harbor Road is to the east, Old Harbor Road in Westport, and the state line is about 225 feet westerly of Old Harbor Road. So the Housing Trust property has the benefit of a 50-foot wide right-of-way, which runs along the northerly boundary of Lot 6 in Westport. And so it's basically 50 feet wide, approximately 225 feet long, and contains about a quarter acre of land. Within that right-of-way is an existing gravel driveway, which traverses westerly from Old Harbor Road, crosses the state line, and then turns to the south. And it's the driveway serving property owned by John and Kerry McKinnon, which again is in Little Compton. What we're proposing to do is upgrade the existing gravel driveway and the right-of-way to conform with the standards of a rural residential lane in Westport, meaning a 20-foot wide gravel surface. Drainage on both sides. Right, currently there is no drainage in the right-of-way serving, addressing the existing gravel driveway. We'll be proposing drainage swales on the north and south side of the new road. Basically, the new lane will continue to provide access to the McKinnon's house, and it'll continue extending westerly to where the Housing Trust property opens up, and there'll be 4 single-family units proposed there. So basically the totals from the subdivision, with an eye to the subdivision regulations and zoning, is 5 single-family units would be served by the right-of-way. We know that up to 6 is allowed, and under my understanding of the Westport requirements or provisions of the rural residential lane. So this is kind of interesting, all the engineering and work, whatnot, is predominantly going to be in Little Compton and serving the units in Little Compton, but the access is through the 225-foot long right-of-way in Westport. So that's why we're here, is to get approval to build the rural residential lane, which once we have that approval, we would be going to the Little Compton Planning Board to get approval for the 4 units that are proposed. We've already have approved soil testing from the Rhode Island DEM on the 4.9 acres, which would support a shared septic system. I could go on and on, but I think that's the overview, so I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, so our bylaw that allows rural residential lanes allows 4 lots to get frontage and 2 lots that don't need frontage. I don't know how we figure out what this is, because none of it is typical Westport subdivision. You've got 1 lot that's going to have 4 houses on it, right? And you have 1 existing house, which is going to continue to use this new upgraded right-of-way gravel road. It's, I think, I don't know what to think yet, so. I have heard of this before from Dennis Talbot, who was, I guess, the person that owned the land in the middle. And in my discussions with him, and I didn't tell him it's okay or not. I didn't know there's another house. So, what's going on out there?
Vacuuming.
You can't shut it.
We have to leave it open.
Somebody's out there.
It's a public hearing, we can't shut the door. there's something more going on out there besides vacuuming. There's a lot of people. You can come up front. So, I don't know, how this fits or doesn't fit, but I guess we'll work through it, so. And the right-of-way, is, I don't know if we have to have you prove it to us. I would think we do, so, but I don't know. Cause that's over the Cummings lot, right? So, I would,
Does something that's located in another state have to meet our zoning?
I don't know. No, but I mean, no, but I mean, can we say it's a rural residential lane, or can we say it's a 6-lane highway, or can we say it's a driveway?
I mean, to my understanding, the rural residential lane is conveying access to 2 lots in Little Compton.
Okay. So, do you have I don't know what our consulting engineer asked you to change and what you've done to change it, but since he hasn't been able to review it, I would let that take place before we make a decision, I would say. So I'd go with the planner's report that it's 2 lots and qualifies for a rural residential lane. So first, I'm going to ask the board if they have questions or comments, the planner, and then I'll open it up to the public. So, anybody have any comments?
I'm interested if the planner has any initial observations.
I mean, it's a pretty straightforward request. They're building a small stub of a road to
Yeah.
convey access into a different state where the town's bylaws obviously don't apply. So there are a number of details that still need to be worked out with their stormwater plan as well as on their existing and proposed plan. There's some things that need to be tightened up, but in concept, you know, this is something that would meet the standards of the town's subdivision bylaws.
Okay, so it looks, I can't tell for sure, but it looks like the road is on one side of the right-of-way as it intersects Old Harbor Road. And is there adequate sightlines, and is there adequate radius there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so the right-of-way, the road starts on near the southerly side of the right-of-way at Old Harbor Road. That's to align with the existing driveway entrance and also to avoid an existing utility pole, which is located on the north side of the driveway. And then we basically run it down parallel with the right-of-way. Again, there's another utility pole on the north side just before the state line, which we seek to avoid. And the alignment of the gravel road allows us to have swales, drainage swales on both sides. So that's the
Okay.
rationale.
And to follow up on your question, that was one of the consultant engineer's comments, is that they need to show the turn radius at the terminus with Old Harbor Road.
So this is the old plan, not the new plan.
This, correct, I don't know what is on the
Okay.
submitted plan, I haven't reviewed it yet.
Any comments, questions?
It looks as if, I don't know what the site line conditions are along there. I'm trying to picture exactly where this is, but the road that they're proposing is pitching away from the road towards Little Compton. There's a low spot just up in the upper left-hand corner of and certainly from a drainage standpoint, it's all flowing towards that wetland in Little Compton. So it's not putting water or icing conditions back out on Old Harbor Road. And for me, I think it's the same. We can't apply our standards in Little Compton, and I think this really is a driveway to two lots.
So there's no access from the west into this lot from John Dyer Road?
That's correct. The original address of the parcel was 164 John Dyer Road. It was purchased by Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust.
Could you get up and speak into the microphone, because this is on television?
Originally, this parcel was a part of a larger parcel, initially identified as 164 John Dyer Road, from which access was available. This portion being on the easterlymost end of that parcel, it is not accessible now from John Dyer Road and only from Old Harbor Road.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody from the audience? Questions, comments? Could you please come up?
So I'm Paula Cummings, 245 Old Harbor Road. I have two questions. If there was once access from John Dyer Road, why is there no longer access from John Dyer Road?
Good, you have to,
Oh, I'm
ask
sorry.
me and I'll ask
All right,
him.
so that's question number one. Question number two is I wonder if the Conservation Commission or the Commissioner has looked at this property on either side for any wetlands or any problems with this road might represent on either side.
So, I can't answer the question about the Conservation Department in Rhode Island. I wouldn't have any idea.
But do you think that should be looked at?
I think for the development of that lot, yeah, it should be, but it's, what we have before us is just a road,
Mhm.
not a development.
Right, but
I don't know, is there any wetlands in the Cummings lot?
There are no delineated wetlands on that lot, and it's also been reviewed by the Conservation Commission agent, and he did not provide any comments or concerns with the
Okay.
application.
okay.
So, and for the access from Little Compton, I don't know how far John Dyer Road is from this lot, but this was part of a very large lot, right? And it was cut out just for this purpose. How far is it to John Dyer Road?
Probably, I'm just estimating, probably 3,000 feet. There's the larger earlier parcel had frontage on John Dyer Road. However, there's extensive wetland system which pretty much isolated this eastern end of the property, and that's why the right-of-way was put in the 80s from Old Harbor Road.
Right.
Because of that extensive wetlands in the middle.
And so this lot has not retained the right-of-way from John Dyer Road through that big parcel?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm willing to make a motion to continue this public hearing to November 19th. I do want to note that I'm not going to be in attendance on the 19th. I've got a long planned vacation then, so if everyone else is present, there'll still be a quorum, but I won't be here. So With that understanding, I move to continue the public hearings for Little Compton Housing Trust to November 19th, 2024 at 6:15.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the 6:30 public hearing for Bentley Estates 2, modification, file number 15-009C-MOD. The applicant is requesting to waive the sidewalks on the approved definitive subdivision for Bentley Estates 2, map 5, lots 16, 18, and 50 to 68. Is there somebody here for this?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Attorney Patricia Kudo, and I'm here today on behalf of all of the homeowners of the Bentley Estates 2 subdivision who are currently here tonight. Additionally, I'm also a homeowner at 8 Whalen Way as part of the subdivision as well.
Okay.
So I am here today to, and on behalf of all of the homeowners, to respectfully oppose the proposal to install the sidewalks and request a waiver from the subdivision standards. While we do recognize the general intention behind the sidewalk requirements, we do believe that our concerns encompass several key issues that make this installation both unnecessary and potentially harmful to our community. These issues include not only a limited use and benefit for the sidewalks, additionally there are also safety concerns, in addition to financial burdens, and also it also impacts the neighborhood and the character and property values of the homes in the subdivision. Given the low population density and the nature of the subdivision, the sidewalks would likely see minimal use, making their construction an unnecessary expense on the homeowners. Unlike the urban areas with high pedestrian traffic, our community does not experience the volume of foot traffic that would justify the installation of the sidewalks. Additionally, many of the homeowners have ample space on their lots for personal walking paths or recreational areas, reducing the need for public sidewalks. In addition, and as was pointed out on one of the documents provided by the board, there is a shared use trail that's currently planned on Old Bedford Road, which is 0.4 miles from the intersection of Bentley Lane with Highland Ave, which is supposed to be a component of the South Coast biking. So therefore creating more recreational use and less the need of the sidewalks. Additionally, there are also safety concerns, which the sidewalks could increase traffic speeds as many drivers perceive wider roads as being safer for higher speeds. This could potentially pose a risk to pedestrians, especially those with children, which many of the homeowners on the street have small children, in addition to seniors who currently walk on the quieter streets with slower moving vehicles. Currently, the residents walk along the roads with minimal traffic, which has created a culture of mutual awareness between the drivers and the pedestrians on the street. So we're all aware of each other on the roads. With the installation of the sidewalk, this could obviously disrupt the balance, leading to a false sense of security for the pedestrians and less caution from drivers. In addition, the residents, all 20 residents of the subdivision, voted unanimously in the application for the modification, which is dated September 3rd, 2024. I'm not sure if you all have a copy of this already. We're happy to provide. In support of waiving this requirement for the sidewalks. And again, they're all here tonight in support of that as well. Which, you know, basically just indicates that it's not a priority for any of the homeowners that live on the street, and that should be considered as we're all the ones that live there. Additionally, it's also a financial burden on homeowners. So the sidewalk installation and the maintenance can potentially pose a financial burden on all of the homeowners within the subdivision. The initial construction costs alone, along with the ongoing maintenance, snow removal, repairs, not to mention the liability that comes with the sidewalks, which would be on the homeowners, may require increased taxes or special assessments on all of the property owners. For many families, it's an additional expense which is not feasible, especially given the current economic environment where rising costs and mortgage rates have already tightened budgets. Given that many residents in the area prioritize the additional cost of maintaining sidewalks, that could strain household budgets, especially if the costs are passed down to the homeowners. And finally, there's also an impact on the neighborhood's character, which I think is the most biggest issue here, in addition to the impact on the property values that it will have. So many of us, we moved to Westport because it's known for its rural and suburban charm, right? Which is many residents, including myself, have chosen to move to Westport. The installation of the sidewalks will alter the character of our neighborhood, making it feel more urbanized and less in line with the rural open space aesthetic that we all value. Additionally, the construction of the sidewalks would require significant grading and the alteration of existing land, potentially disrupting local wildlife habitats and mature trees. Additionally, there are also several lots that will be affected, and that was notated in one of the staff review, that it would affect several already matured trees on those locuses. In addition, it would require, most of the residents appreciate the current landscape and the natural feel of our streets. And the sidewalks will distract from that. The green space that would be lost to the installation of the sidewalks would just basically impact the overall look and feel of the community. Preserving the current landscape is a major priority for the homeowners, and eliminating the need for sidewalks would support that. Additionally, as you may already be aware, Phase 1 of the portion of Bentley Lane currently does not have sidewalks, nor is there an intention on installing sidewalks. So not to mention that the entire second phase of the subdivision is going to look completely different from the first, which was why one of the main reasons the homeowners in the second phase chose to purchase the property in the second phase of the subdivision. In addition, it could also potentially diminish the value of the properties within the subdivision. Like I have indicated, many of the buyers and many prospective buyers of people that may continue to purchase in that subdivision, they are attracted to this rural feel of the community, which could be compromised by the suburban appearance that the sidewalks may create, which could potentially make the properties less attractive and negatively affecting the homeowners and their property values. So for those reasons, we respectfully request that the board grant the waiver of the requirement from the subdivision regulations to install the sidewalks.
So you're speaking in favor of the applicant's request to waive the sidewalk requirement?
Yes.
We haven't heard from the applicant yet.
Yep.
Good evening, my name is Robert Kufuri. I'm the developer of Bentley Estate 2. I was gonna say a few more words, but I was incredibly amazed by everything that I needed to say she had covered. It's all up to you, the board, every one of you, to respectfully vote to eliminate the sidewalk and fulfill the wish of all homeowners. Last time I appeared in front of the board, it was mentioned to me if I have a unanimous signature from all homeowners that the board will consider possibility of waiving the sidewalk. And I urge every one of you to do that. It's all up to you.
So I have a few questions for you and for you. So when everybody bought their lot, did you ever look at the plans and it shows sidewalks?
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't expect sidewalks?
Well, the first phase, it wasn't a requirement. So
We discussed this when he came
Okay.
before us for approval. So we know that the first phase didn't have sidewalks, the one that he didn't build, it didn't have sidewalks.
Mhm.
And we discussed that in the hearings
Yeah.
where we approved his plans. and he wanted not to have sidewalks then. So what he's done is build the whole thing without the sidewalks, which you probably should do when you're building the road, and gotten everybody to say, let's go to the planning board and request not to have sidewalks, because I didn't want to spend the money to do it. And that is my interpretation of what he is doing. He also was supposed to continue the road from that middle cul-de-sac out to Highland Avenue, and he hasn't done that either. So, to
Can I-
me, I mean, and your discussion saying that the wide road makes people slow down, that's not true. Wide roads make people go faster. Narrow roads make people go slower because they feel that it's smaller. And I know that we told him that we would consider it, we are considering it, but, you know, we had the ADA people that have a commission here come to us and say 10 lots or more have to have a sidewalk when Mr. Kafori came before us. We have now changed our rule to 5 lots or more because the handicapped people want sidewalks. And I know that maybe you don't have any handicapped people living there now, but that could happen in the blink of an eye. And I think, I will say just this one more thing. I think his doing this and not building the sidewalks, then getting all of you to come and say, we don't want the sidewalks because he didn't want to put them in and pay for them, I think is what's happening here. But I'll shut up and let other people speak.
Chairman, can I answer that, if you don't mind,
Yes.
if you'd like me to? When homeowners approach me to buy in Bentley Estate, they fell in love with phase 1. I'm guilty slightly of not showing them sidewalks on second phase. I had no idea I had to install sidewalk. It's shame on me, by the way. I just want to say it.
No, I would just rebut that, because you were in all these hearings that we had for your subdivision for this second section, and you asked not to have sidewalks, and you agreed when you got the approval to put sidewalks in. That was part of the approval. It's on the plans, and it was part of the written approval. So I cannot accept you're saying you had no idea.
I understand. In 2016, this subdivision was approved. When I appeared in front of you, it was July of 2023, and we discussed the sidewalk.
Right.
Prior to that, all my homeowners had purchased and built their home and purchased the land. I was almost,
But
I'm
if
just
they-
gonna say, I mean,
If they had any desire to see what they're buying, they would have looked at the plans, and the plans had sidewalks, and she just said, yes, the plans had sidewalks. So I don't.
can I say
I
something
think-
about plans?
I'm talking.
Okay.
So I think that what you have done is when people came and said, this is what it's gonna be looking like, and nobody asked about the sidewalks, but we have,
Mhm.
and I just, anyway.
I just want to say, after the last meeting, when I appeared in front of you guys, it was suggested by you, the board and the planner, if you can get everyone to sign, which is unbelievably overwhelming. 20 residents of the subdivision signed against the sidewalk. I had every intention to go and install the sidewalk after your meeting. I went and started surveying where I'm going to do the sidewalk, and my homeowners came out and said, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in the process of surveying the installation of the sidewalk. And they're like, no, not in my yard. You're gonna disrupt my driveway, you're gonna pay me for shrubs, so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, I have one of the homeowners, several homeowners here, that could testify to that when you ask them. In addition, when a homeowner look at a subdivision, they don't look at the plan's details. They look at the subdivision, which is the perimeter of the lot and all the coordinate of the lot and how big is the lot. They don't go, those are not public records. The detailed plans, I have them, the planning board has them. They have to be requested by someone that does this for a living. Most of my homeowners don't do this. So basically, they ask me to show them what the lot looks like, how much frontage, how much depth, how much is the area, in order for them to build a beautiful home. None of them saw, and if you can ask every one of them, Mike. Can you guys raise your hand, people from the subdivision? please?
Hey,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. But I'm just
you're
saying.
gonna speak to me.
I'm sorry,
only.
Jim. So what did happen is I show them what the lot looks like, I show them the perk results, and they move forward. And they build their dream house. In addition, when you look at a septic plan that's designed by their engineers, you don't see a sidewalk on it, which is the next phase for them. That's all.
Just to add on what Robert said, I mean, that requirement was from 2022 that you just said, that the ADA requirement that the subdivision go
I'm
from
not saying
20
that
to
you
5.
have to do it because you're more than 5. I'm saying that you had to do it because you're more than 10. You're 19 lots. And that was the requirement for the approval of the subdivision, including the utilities, how they're done, and everything else. So it isn't the case that you can just build what you want and then come to us and say, well, we didn't think we needed that.
Well, I don't really think that's what's
like
happening.
stormwater. Why isn't it like that?
Well,
He was supposed to build the sidewalks when he built the road.
okay. Well, also the subdivision has not been completed yet. There's still work in progress that's being completed.
That's true.
Like the sidewalks.
And like
No.
the top coat of the road.
So,
top
anyway,
coat.
let's give other people a chance to speak. Anybody?
It seems to me that, on the one hand, I can understand why now the lawns are in, the landscaping, the driveways, you don't want to put in the sidewalks. But are we letting the developer off the hook because he was bound by our terms to install them initially? And had he done so, when you bought your lots, you would have put in your driveway and landscaping accordingly and would have accommodated the sidewalk. So it's kind of, we're in this situation where you're asking, you don't want this done. I get it, but I'm conflicted by what this means if we set a precedent here and allow this to stand like this. Because you didn't do this in the beginning, and that was your obligation. And I don't know if we can release you from that obligation.
I think I'm with Mark and the chairman. We considered the issue of the value of sidewalks. We, to begin with, say that new developments, not old ones, of greater than 10 should, when they're being constructed, when people are constructing roads, etc., all the infrastructure, should put in sidewalks. Then we say, it shouldn't be 10, it should be 5. And, but it should be done when it's being constructed, because that's when it's cheapest to do. And then this gentleman says, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna agree to that, then I'm gonna ignore it. I'm just going to build it the way I want to. Then I'm gonna sell the lots, and then I'm gonna bring all the people in and say, well, won't you allow no sidewalks? Now, if we agree to that, we might as well just rip up the law that says there should be sidewalks anywhere. because it's meaningless from then on. Because everyone will do what this gentleman does and totally ignore that, because obviously the law means nothing. Because he will show that I can just ignore any agreement that I agreed to before the planning board. And there's a reason for it, and it has to do with accessibility and among other things. And so I just don't see why we should enter into an agreement with a developer who's there to make money. And then when the developer comes in and says, I want to be, after the fact, released from my agreement, say, sure, we didn't really care whether that agreement was binding. Go ahead. Save all the money you want from the agreement that we thought was binding, but you didn't think was binding. These agreements that we, representing the town of Westport, we thought it was binding, you didn't, that's okay. You're released from it. You're a lawyer, does that make sense to you?
Am I allowed to respond?
Yes.
While I can understand your point of view, and obviously myself, out of probably anyone in this room as well as yourselves, understand that there are laws in place, I think that the whole reason why we're here is to consider the homeowners who actually live at the property. And I don't think that you're doing that, because based on each of your arguments, your concern is the developer and putting the burden on the developer. But the burden is not put on the developer because he doesn't own at least 20 of the lots in the subdivision. It's us as the homeowner that's now being imposed on, right? In addition to your point, right, you made the point that you stated that this is a requirement for new subdivisions and not old subdivisions. Well, the first phase is an old subdivision,
Yeah, the first
right?
phase, but we didn't put that on the first phase, we put it on the second phase.
Well, right, but if you
And we didn't put the burden on the homeowners, he did.
Sure, but if you consider that you put it on the first phase, think about how the first phase is gonna look completely different from the second phase.
That's right.
Right?
It's the first phase and the second phase is
Right.
new construction.
Right,
We would not impose that on something that was already built because of the added expense. We wouldn't say retroactively, you have to go do that on something that's already built because of the added expense.
sure.
You only wanted to do it on things where you're already saying, okay, I've got to construct the roads and everything else.
Correct, but because it's an extension of the same street, it's not gonna even look right. It's not gonna even look like it's a part of the same street. So that's why we're requesting that, to continue that the whole way down.
Well, that was an argument when he came in to build phase two, that I need a relief because it will look different.
I mean, and again, to your point, right, like it's all about accessibility. How accessible is it to have sidewalks on a second phase, but not on the first phase? Like that, it doesn't even make sense.
Well, yeah, but to pursue your argument, that would mean, I guess we shouldn't have sidewalks anywhere because we don't have sidewalks somewhere.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying not to have.
Sounds like it is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that it's one singular street. It's not like there are multiple streets within Bentley Lane. It's essentially one singular street that turns into another street. I'm not saying that I disagree with the regulation, that there should be sidewalks in new subdivisions, but not when a portion of the street doesn't have sidewalks, and now you're requesting for the second portion to have sidewalks. I mean, it should be consistent, right, for the whole street. And if you're saying that it's not a requirement to install it on the first phase, how does that make sense to install it on the second portion?
It makes sense because you start somewhere, right?
I guess then wouldn't you need to retroactively go back and put it on the first
I don't
phase?
think
Yeah.
so.
You know?
Mr. Chairman, I have 2 points. One, If we were to relieve the developer of the obligation that he agreed to when the subdivision was approved, I mean, it really, to make my colleague's point, it's a lousy precedent. The second point is this is really not a burden on the homeowners. Yes, there'll be a piece of construction in it and you may have lawns and everything extended to the pavement, but all of this work is in his land, not your land. It's in the public way, or it's a private way, I should say. So it's, the disruption is not on your properties, it's on his property. And that's, and the fact that there's now lawns and landscaping and everything that have been extended into the subdivision way is really a function of the fact that the sidewalks weren't put in when the road was put in. If the sidewalks had been put in then, you would have, fencing and landscaping and driveways would have been made to accommodate the sidewalks. And yes, we are, I hear the argument, and this seems irrational that we would have sidewalk, we have subdivisions that come off of Drift Road, which is rural, has no sidewalks at all in its entire length, runs the entire length of the town. And we were compelled by the arguments made by the Disabilities Commission when they came before us of people in wheelchairs having to go out and dodge UPS trucks and snowbanks and all that kind of stuff, and they said it makes a difference whether we can visit our neighbors or not. And that's an argument that has merit to us, and that's why we acted. So I'm not, I think if, I know you didn't exist when, you didn't exist as homeowners when this was approved, but if this was an argument made, this was an argument made by the developer, and we disagreed with the argument because of our rules and regulations. So I think it's an obligation that needs to be fulfilled.
So, Manny, anything?
Is the, this road's gonna be accepted by the town? Is it that we're planning to get accepted, snow plowing and all that stuff?
I believe that is the plan once the entire subdivision is completed.
Is the first phase, has that been accepted by the town?
Yes, it has.
Yes.
So it's a town road.
I mean, I've been, the time that I've been on this board, and Martin has contacted me many times on this issue with the sidewalks. And I've been pushing sidewalks on our Route 6 properties and so forth, and I am in favor of sidewalks, but I'm trying to listen to the public that came in. And in defense of the developer, a subdivision in this size, I mean, I do this type of work, and what I do try to do is put the gravel in first, but when you get this many houses going in, it's kind of tough to put the sidewalk in. So it's, and then individual, you got, I don't know, 20, 30 individual builders on the lots, so it's kind of tough on his part. But, I mean, Mr. Kafori, you went there to install these sidewalks to fulfill your obligation.
Correct. I just want to mention that the homeowner I encountered while I was surveying, went to the equipment to start installing. And the homeowner, they initiated this. They're like, there's no way I'm gonna let you put a sidewalk in front of my lawn.
Correct. Just to add, if I may, the reason why he's here today is because we all requested it, right? And I think that's, obviously your job as the board is to consider, what the public thinks and the residents and homeowners of the subdivision.
I just find it interesting, you say that, you said earlier anyway, that you were perfectly comfortable and the people, your neighbors, the neighbors here are perfectly comfortable walking in the street. Elderly people, young kids, bikes, baby carriages.
Mhm.
Rather than being on a sidewalk, away from the traffic, just seems strange to me, and so as a public safety issue, maybe not for you who are there, you feel that you're adequately protected, but the reason for these sidewalks is to protect the public good. And the handicapped access. There could be someone moving into one of these homes now that fronts these sections who is in a wheelchair. And yes, he won't be able to get through the whole development, but at least he or she, that individual will have at least some access up and down those stretches of road that have the sidewalks. It's something. It's not perfect, but it's part of, if we don't make a start somewhere, it's unfair to a whole group of people who are not mobile. So, accessibility and public safety, those, to me, are the key reasons for asking for, requiring, in fact, the sidewalks.
Mr. Chair, so this subdivision, it's gonna be accepted by the town. The sidewalks were on it. Who is responsible to maintain the sidewalks? That's in the town layout.
Normally, I would bet it's the town, if it's in the town, if the town accepts the road.
Only
Town
because I'm
is
just
town is
looking
not
like
obligated to
in
do
the
that.
city, like the sidewalk in
don't
front of
have
the
that
property,
by-
the
we don't have
homeowner takes care of the sidewalk. I'm just curious.
We don't have that bylaw. Yeah.
I think the answer is that if this gets accepted by the town has to maintain the sidewalk.
So, anybody else from the audience like to speak?
Yes. Last time I spoke to you, Jim, you said to take a look at the plans and how wide the street was. So I did, okay? And it's about 27 feet, in some spots 28 feet. Highland Ave is 21 feet, okay? That's why I think there's plenty sufficient, wide enough for people to walk and cars to go one way and the other way. What's gonna happen here is the plan's shown for the street to be 22 feet, okay? So now here I'm coming down Bentley Lane, which is a nice wide street, and then it's gonna funnel into a 22-foot street, okay? Where, right now it's coming, when we come down, it's nice and wide. There's plenty of space for the kids to actually go back and forth with the bikes. Because they can't go on the sidewalk if actually the sidewalk is for pedestrians, correct? So now you have a 22-foot street where our kids are riding bikes back and forth. Makes it tougher when two cars are coming either direction. Not only that, this morning, seeing the truck, the garbage truck. The truck is about 102 inches wide, okay? Give it or take, a little bit more, depends what, when they pick up the barrel. 22 feet, if you go through Highland Ave, where the truck, actually, a garbage truck, it's really hard to get around that truck, right? You really have to stop, you have to watch. Here in Bentley Lane, the way the street is 27 feet to 28 feet, you don't have to. There's plenty of space there to go by. So that's why I'm saying like 27 feet, I could see if the street was 22 feet, okay, or 21 feet, but it's 27 feet wide. So I take that in consideration, that there is plenty of space there for people to walk, cars to go both ways, kids to ride bikes, versus actually trying to narrow that down to 22 feet, which is going to limit our kids to actually ride the bikes back and forth, because now it's going to be tighter. They're not going to be riding the bikes on the pads. So, just a point that I'd like to put across. You know, and the only way to see it is by being there and watching it. You know, and I have cameras. I can see how many people go by my yard, go in front of my house. There's not many. And I actually go for walks with my wife. I go up to Highland Ave, take a right, go to Deerfield Lane. Has anybody ever gone by Deerfield Lane and look at the sidewalks there? No? It's disastrous. We actually walk on the street. Because the sidewalks there, they're all lifted up. We can't walk on it. There's no way we can walk in some of those walkways. You know? So is the town supposed to be, you know, keep on top of actually the sidewalks? Is this something that we're going to do in the future when something happens? Like, you know, the ground lifts up. So you have driveways, sidewalks. Ground freezes, there's different levels, right? So now what happens with that is the sidewalk goes up higher, maybe 2 inches. Now it becomes a safety concern where somebody can trip and actually fall. Who's that fall under? The homeowner? And then the other thing too is because of the way it would actually have to go over more onto my side, right? My driveway is already pitched, right? How would we pitch the new walkways to the driveways? Would you have to actually dig the driveways to get us a good pitch all the way up? Mine can't go anymore because I can't even get a plow at a certain height to actually go up anymore, which the pitch of my driveway is. So that becomes a burden on the homeowners. I get it. It was from the future, before it was supposed to be put in place and everything else. But now you got to kind of see what we're looking at as far as from our end. You know? So what do? Do I tear up my whole driveway all the way up to get a certain, you know what I mean, as far as level to make that turn into my garages? So yeah, there's a lot that's just not just, you know, I get it. It's for safety concern, but safety concern is what I see is we have a nice wide street. People can walk back and forth. Cars can actually drive back and forth on either side with people walking. With a 22-foot street, you know, we're very well driving up in Highland Ave. That's a safety concern. Can't even walk on it. You know, we're walking up there, you have to jump on top of the grass, which is actually, it's mountains up, you know. So, that's my point. Okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Do you have his name? Yeah, could you?
I'm sorry. My name is Emmanuel Botello. I'm from 65 Bentley Lane.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
make a mention of Deerfield Lane. So, Deerfield Lane's in Dartmouth.
Yes.
And that road, so when the question I asked if these sidewalks were gonna be maintained by the town, that's what I was getting at. So that road was actually built 29 years ago. So there would be some, you know, if you go look at Dartmouth does have a maintenance program. They go and seal coat cracks and so forth. So Deerfield's probably in desperate need of maintenance from the town of Dartmouth, and that's what your problems are. And I'll do another disclosure, because phase 2 of Deerfield, 45 lots, I built it in 1995. So, and that subdivision in that town, before they accepted the road, I was required that all the lots had to be built on. All the landscaping had to be in place. So we got it to binder, we put the sidewalks in, we got the landscaping in, we put all the sidewalks, we top coated, it was 100% complete within the 18 months that I was allowed to build in it. And coming up after the bond was ready to expire, they would not accept the road until every house lot was built. And then they once the house lots, it took 4 to 5 years before they accepted the road. But that road was built almost 30 years ago. And as you know, you keep seeing on 195 how many times they grind the road. You can't just think of paving these streets and just leaving them and not maintaining them. So, we've got this situation across the boards. We had an assisted living that the developer turned over the property to all the homeowners and never put the sidewalk in. So we're just trying to, we're trying to, kind of do what's right, that's all. I feel you, because that subdivision the road was 26 feet wide to the gutter with a 1 foot berm on both sides, and then the sidewalk off to the side. And you've probably never seen anybody walk on those sidewalks since it was built, but I can agree to that.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I see something.
Well, you have to come up here and identify yourself.
I live in 86 Mental Lane.
Who are you?
Cesar Franco, I live in 86 Mental Lane in Westport. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
spell his name? I can't.
CESAR.
Caesar? C-E-S-A-R, yeah. What's the last name?
Yeah, FRNCO.
F-R-A-N-C-O?
CO, yeah, Franco.
86 Bentley?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do construction work. I build roads. We always put a sidewalk, like you said, I agree with you on that. But at this point, we bought the land, we did all that, we all love it, we all live there. All these people live there. We don't want it, it should be our choice, not the board's choice. I understand where we come from. If it's safety, then you should do all the developments. Especially the first one this gentleman built, Mr. Kafori. Okay, you should have put them in, I understand that, we could look at the sidewalks when you buy the house. So, they weren't there. So we're all landscape, it's thousands of dollars we put into those houses. You guys drive by there, you walk them drive by there. All the people go on that street, if people live there with their kids, they all have kids. 2, 3, 5 years old. You know? You walk by there, like we said, all the other streets are so tight to go by. You guys don't care, none of them. Who's gonna shovel the sidewalks? Where they break, you guys fix them? Westport looks like hell, some of these developments. I don't see you guys fixing the sidewalks. It's a hazard trip. Who's gonna sue, the homeowner? You're not gonna be responsible for it, are you? No, you're not. So they're not there. We asked the gentleman, we don't want them. We should have the choice, because we live there, not you guys. I know you guys are doing the job for people and stuff like that, but if you're so concerned about the safety, all these developments in Westport should be all put in, and they're not. So you just picked this one because he didn't read the fine prints for it. Okay, he made a mistake. We all love it where we live, so we don't want them. And the people who walk there is just though people live there. Nobody else hardly walks there, because it's a dead-end street. It's only the houses live there, go back and forth with cars. We all know they all have kids, so we go slow. And there's plenty of room, like bikes, like Manny said, it's plenty of room. So you guys should consider that. And we signed a paper to say we don't want them, you guys are concerned with that. And all of a sudden, you're changing your mind. You know? You're pushing them back, so I'm pushing you back. It's our safety, we know it's very safety there. In the future, if you want to consider it, go ahead, we're not gonna live forever, we know that. Does your development have roads, have a sidewalk? Probably not. So it's gonna look like crap, coming down Bentley Lane, one part of the street doesn't have it, the other part has it. So if that was no concern, you should have made those guys put that in. Then they all look the same as we dress it, as you landscape it according to the sidewalk. But everybody landscape it because there's no sidewalks there. And some of these driveways, like Mandy said, some are high, some are low, it's all kinds of crap, you know, the way we develop this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's my concern. We don't want sidewalks. We're all here. Everybody lives here, right here. Everybody here. We can leave our doors open with our kids. They all play with each other. So you guys got to consider that to your mind. They don't want it. Let's consider they don't want it. I know it's got to start somewhere to put sidewalks in. But a lot of them in the West Point, drive around, they don't have sidewalks. And they're $1 million homes, just like these are.
Thank you.
The rest of my case. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. So, when was the first phase built? What year?
You know?
Early 2000s, I don't know.
Who built the first
Yeah,
phase?
early 2000s.
Do you know
I'm not sure who.
who the developer was for the first phase? Bob, do you know who the developer was for the first phase and what year it was built?
I was.
You were?
I think it was in 2012, 16.
2012?
My memory's going a little bit, so. 2012.
And that one, so we didn't have a sidewalk regulation on that?
I think it was earlier than that, but
2016. The first hearing date was September 22nd, 2015.
this is for number 2.
That was for the first.
Yeah, how about for the first?
The first one? probably not even in the computer. I think it's 2009.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Only because, like to mention you too about, on what the town is, so back in the 90s, when I did a lot of these subdivisions, I also did Westport Meadows, which is off of Sodom Road into, Charlotte White, and that has a sidewalk the whole way. And we did do that when we had the binder course, before we did the landscape. But we also had issues with the residents on drainage swales that were on the side of the road that they didn't know when they started building the houses. But that one was a developer that built all the houses, so it was easy to do. So I think this kind of just slipped through the cracks the whole way. It wasn't in the first approval.
In 2009, I'm not sure that we had a requirement for sidewalks. I think that came.
We didn't.
Yeah. In 2009, we had no requirement for sidewalks, and it was instituted after Mr. Kafori did phase 1. But during all those hearings, he probably got tired of us saying we want sidewalks, and he kept on saying, no, we don't want sidewalks because phase 1 doesn't have it. Well, then when do you start having sidewalks, when you have to have them? And I think 2 people have talked about who's gonna maintain them. So we should have our roads wide as hell without any sidewalks, and everybody would be happy? I don't think so. That's dangerous to have wide roads all over the place because it makes people go faster. And the way that traffic engineers get people to slow down is to narrow roads and to get in safety to get the people out of the roads and onto the sidewalk. So I'm only one person here, so. But I still have the same problem with what Mr. Kafori has done, is he hasn't connected the cul-de-sac to Highland Avenue, which is a requirement of his application from years ago. And I don't know how we're ever gonna accept this subdivision if those things are not done. Now, the board can say, okay, we'll give you a waiver for the sidewalks. The discussion of it from the last time is if we're going to not have the sidewalks, we have to have everybody sign on. It doesn't mean that we're going to do it, but if you have any chance of doing it, you had to have everybody sign on because the subdivision at some point changes ownership basically to the homeowners as opposed to just the applicant. The applicant still has the requirement to finish, which he hasn't done. So I don't know.
So I think we're kind of stuck because in order for the road to be accepted, it has to be built according to the plan. I don't know if there's a way if they decided not to have the road accepted by the town and, possibly paint a bike lane on your road if you think your road's wider, but it wouldn't, I just don't know how we could, if we can do that, and that would be,
Well, the plan I have here, where'd we get this plan? It's on our paper.
This one up here?
Yeah.
This was submitted by the applicant.
Okay, so it shows with the sidewalk, a 26-foot wide road? At least that's what it looks like to me.
it looks 26 foot wide. Should be probably gutter to gutter. No?
Yeah, 26 gutter to gutter.
And a 1 foot berm on both sides.
That's right.
So it's really 28 feet wide.
28.
And we have dropped some of these roads down,
I don't
Can I-
think it,
Can I speak?
it's just a sleepy cul-de-sac road, dead ends. I don't know that you need 26 feet. I don't know. What is, anybody else?
Matthew De Silva, 62 Bentley Lane. I have 5-year-olds and a 15-year-old. My daughters ride on the street. This traffic is slow. Nobody's going in and out of there because it's a private neighborhood. You get like a private feel when you walk in there. The sidewalk is not gonna benefit them. It's not gonna benefit anybody. Cause they can ride their bike, turn around, boom, they fall off the sidewalk, they hit the floor. Another thing, we're talking about paving this and this. Highland Ave was just paved not too long ago. There is no bike lane line. They just put the double yellow line. My father-in-law lives in Westport too, in a neighborhood off of Highland Ave. He walks Highland Ave every day. Every day I see him, he's jumping off to the side, every cop. Every morning I bring my son to school at Westport Middle High School. The people who walk in the morning, they're jumping off to the side. There's no sidewalk there, and 10 feet of that property belongs to the town. 10 feet of Highland Ave belongs to the town. No one's worried about that sidewalk. But our private neighborhood, where all our children play, my son plays basketball in the street, my daughters, I walk my dog off leash, everything in the neighborhood. Everybody walks their dog. Everybody has young children in this neighborhood, and we are not concerned at all about a sidewalk. It's not gonna benefit any of us by a sidewalk being there. If anything, it's gonna make it tighter, so when my son decides to ride his bike in the street, now usually we just go off to the side and the car goes around, slows down. Now he's gonna have to hop onto a sidewalk. This is not gonna benefit anybody. I just don't understand why our neighborhood's gonna have it. I understand he was obligated, he was supposed to put it in, but think about something. If the sidewalk was already there and he had to come in, you have to do septic systems, fill in lots. Everybody's house wasn't directly had a plan for a driveway to be in a certain location. Some people switch their driveways around. Some people put their driveway on the left side, put their driveway on the right side because of the way the electric ran underneath the ground, the way the septic system was developed. If he had the sidewalk there, how are you supposed to go? You're gonna go over the sidewalk with these trucks carrying tons and tons of fill? They would've got destroyed. That's why he didn't do it yet. I know that's why he didn't do it yet. He was gonna wait till afterwards because it wasn't a set thing where like a developer would be like Pacific Homes. When Pacific Homes does a development, they usually go, this house is gonna be this style, and your driveway's gonna come this way. This was all individually done by homeowners like myself. I had plenty of conversations with Rob with switching stuff around. Hey, can you move my house a little more this way? Can you move my house a little more that way? Oh, I want my driveway on the right. I want my driveway on the left. Now, if I bought the lot and he already had the sidewalk and the driveway done, I would have been like, oh, so I have no choice but to put my driveway on the right, or I have no choice to put my driveway on the left. And if you were to drive trucks over it, it would have destroyed it. It would have destroyed the sidewalk because you can only get in there certain ways. I understand he was obligated, we all understand, but we're all here because we live there. We love just walking down the street with our kids, riding bikes. And also, I noticed other different neighborhoods, people do their walk down our street also too. I don't know the name of the neighborhood, it's across Highland Ave. Some people come probably from Deerfield Lane, they do their exercise, they walk through our neighborhood, and it doesn't bother them that there's no sidewalk. So I just don't understand, because I look at Highland Ave, and that's a tight street, to the point where I always, just to give myself precaution, when someone's riding a bike, there is no bike lane line either, and it just got paved. So there's plenty of people who ride bikes on Highland Ave, and I just go over to the side and I go around them. If anything's a safety concern, it would be Highland Avenue. That's a safety concern. That to me is a tight street.
One thing, I think Highland Ave is maintained by Dartmouth too, I think.
It's half and half, yeah.
Yeah, it's half and half. That's why I figured. But like I said, even like I tell my father-in-law, he walks down Highland Ave twice a day. And I say, hey, be careful. And he walks on the opposite side of the street so he can see the cars. So they're not going back towards him. And then when he goes the other way back to his house, because he lives off of Oral Lane and Bluebird Lane. He lives in that development. And that development has no sidewalks, but that's an older development. But that's what I'm trying to say. I know he was responsible, he didn't do it, but also there's a lot of things that come into play why he didn't do it. Because that would have affected us tremendously. And now if the sidewalks are here, and I know it's going to put a burden on us. If it cracks, it lifts. It's a new development. Everything's moving. Everything, even your house. 4 years old, I got cracks because the house is settling. The ground's going to settle. So that's going to be, now if that cracks up, how long is it going to take for someone to come cut that section out and put in things? I work in New Bedford. I work for the housing authority. We have sidewalks everywhere. You know how many kids stay on the sidewalk? They're always on the street, always. So that's why I feel this is just an inconvenience. There's no point of having this sidewalk.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, if I may just close out some of the arguments that you heard tonight. I don't think anybody else has anything to say.
There's a person with his hand up back there.
No, I wanted to say something.
Oh, you have to
Go
come
ahead.
up.
Okay. My name's Adelino Borges. I live on 73 Bentley Lane. And it's a beautiful development. When we bought it, we went down the first phase. There's no, we never, you know, right now, I'm afraid if you put a sidewalk and you close that road down, it's gonna be danger to the kids. Your kids ride up and down that with bikes and children, and they're gonna cross paths, they're gonna go to the street. And you know, I understand the ADA accessibility with a wheelchair. I understand, might have somebody in there, but I bet you they won't go on a sidewalk. Because once they go on that sidewalk, it's narrow. It's gonna be narrow for them to turn around. They're gonna have to go to the street and turn around. Especially the ones, you know, a lot of them have their, you know, the motor, you know, their electrical. They're gonna turn around into the street because it's gonna be narrow, these sidewalks. I've seen them, they're narrow, they're not, you know. I understand, you gotta meet the requirements for everybody, but you put that street narrow down, I believe it's gonna be a danger to the children in that street. We have children in that street, they drive, like they ride the bikes back and forth, families walking their dog comfortably, it's very comfortable. And we understand Mr. Kafori, you know, like, it's a beautiful development, it's great the way it is, but if that street narrows, it's gonna be like Howland Ave, worse. Because children don't go there, ride their bikes, or walk. I walk over there, and I'm gonna say, Bo, I gotta scoot over when there's a car coming. It's the way it is. I'm young, yeah, right. But, but when I get older, you know. So that's my point. I just think it's gonna be more dangerous. It may be more accessible for some people, yes, I understand, but I have a feeling they won't use the sidewalk. They will turn around and go into the street. And now it's going to be narrow. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Seth DeBercio, 80 Bentley Lane. I keep hearing, you know, the homeowner should have known about sidewalks. I know what I looked at as far as a building plan goes. I'm not a developer. I'm not a person who looks at these 24/7, can understand the septic location, can understand this. But my only argument is if the onus is put on the homeowners, how many inspections did you guys do when Mr. Kafori was initially developing it that should have been flagged at the onset of the development to say, hey, this is marked out for properties, there should be a 5-foot, 6-foot allotment for sidewalks. Because I see drainage put in, I see all that put in right at the berms of the width of the street. Is all that gonna have to change? Are you gonna have to push that all back 5 feet now?
Mr. Chair. So I believe it's probably a 50-foot layout, so the town will own 50-foot wide, and you have a 26-foot roadway now. So one of the shoulders that sidewalk's gonna be on town property. And what we've come up to now is saying that the sidewalk will be, if the road's accepted, the sidewalk will be the town's responsibility.
No, I get that, but I'm saying, like, so there's drainage ponds in the back where those drains are already fixed on both sides of the street. So if you put sidewalks on one side of the street, isn't that gonna have to change those drainage locations?
I mean, I don't have the plan in front of me, but I'm sure the sidewalk was on
Yeah.
it, so.
But I just wanted to say, everybody I think said everything that everybody thinks. No need in me reiterating all that. The only comment I had was if you guys are doing inspections when the properties are being built, shouldn't that sidewalk have been caught at the onset? So this doesn't happen. So that way, the soon-to-be homeowners don't have to be experts in everything that they're doing. That's my only comment to the town.
The only thing I would say to that is that, as somebody was saying, that they don't know where the driveways are gonna be, they don't know how many sand trucks are gonna run over this thing, they're not gonna build the sidewalk and make a place for for the driveway, and you may not want it there. So, when it's not a developer who's building everything, but a developer who's selling the lots,
Yeah.
generally, they're doing the driveway after those trucks are done.
Yep.
So all the stormwater controls, the drains and everything else should have been done per the plan, which included the sidewalks. So that,
Okay.
I don't think that the sidewalks should impede upon those things if he has built them to specification. And what he's obligated to do is to alert us when he's done and give us an as-built and show us where all these things are. Our consulting engineer goes out and checks all these things. So, Mr. Planner?
I really don't have any additional comments.
Okay.
I think that the issues have been addressed on both sides of the coin pretty well. I would like to note that the sidewalks are outside of the layout of the road, so they're not, or the travel lanes. So it's not that the road lanes will become narrower, they'll be located aside the travel lane. And the costs, just regarding the costs of this, the developer is still responsible for installing the sidewalks. The homeowners are not, and the town still mains surety for this development in order to ensure that if there aren't pieces of infrastructure that aren't installed or they're not installed appropriately, the town does maintain that surety to make the necessary improvements. So those are the only remaining things that I think need to be addressed.
I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't have the cross-section of the plan in front of me, but just looking at, if it's a 50-foot layout, so back of berm, they should have 11 feet on both sides, that you guys don't actually own. That's gonna be what's accepted by the town.
So I think the issue is driving around Bentley Lane, the old section and the new where it changes. People, at some places it's not steep, but it's not flat.
Right.
So if you cut 6 or 7 feet out to make a 5-foot sidewalk, you're gonna have it's not gonna be flat, so you're gonna have to hold that bank back somehow. And so it'll alter how the yards look, but. So, if anybody's ready for a motion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, but I want to make a couple of remarks first. First of all, I appreciate everyone coming here. We do this twice a month. You're welcome to come to any of our meetings and be part of this. I say that because the issue of how we deal with the sidewalks where you live is very important to you because it's your home and it's your neighborhood. But it's one of 3 public hearings we have tonight, and this is one of a couple of meetings we have in October, and we meet all year. And the reason I say that is because we cannot just look at this single decision about sidewalks in this development in isolation and just say, well, everyone here doesn't want sidewalks, let's just do majority vote kind of thing. Because we have to think about, well, we have zoning laws, we have rules that we've talked about on sidewalks. And how does that affect Westport? And if we make an ad hoc decision every time, just based on who shows up at a meeting, then we don't really have any rules at all. We're just changing things by the seat of our pants every night based on who shows up. And pretty soon it's just chaos. So we decided as we talked this evening about the development of a rule on when should we have sidewalks in Westport, and should it be for developments of over 10, then over 5, and how that got developed, and how at some point we started saying, yes, it should be a requirement. And we had to start at that point. And that meant new developments would get them, and we decided we're not going to make it retroactive and have it apply to older developments. So that's why Bentley 1 didn't get them, but Bentley 2 did get them. And so that creates a problem about the neighborhood where you live. But we're trying to say, how do we benefit, protect all of the people of Westport, and in our mind, providing sidewalks for neighborhoods greater than 5, with sidewalks as our population ages and as people, more and more people, require assistance in mobility. That makes sense for the people of Westport as a whole. So that was a decision we made. That's the rationale behind it. And it's not just people in wheelchairs. We thought it was a quality of life, and it was a safety reason. But it needs to be a regulation that gets applied evenly to everyone, that's written down so all developers know up front that this is what I, as a developer, am required to do, so they know it up front. Now, the developer of Bentley 2 knew about it. That's why it shows on the plan that there will be sidewalks. It's right there, boom, sidewalks. He knew it, he agreed to it. And anyone buying something there in the second, in Bentley 2, I won't say should have known, but that was part of the plan, and that's what he agreed to, and a lot of people have said, well, he made a commitment, and commitments are commitments. And it's his obligation to put it in. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about sidewalks and all the problems of sidewalks, but sidewalks are, sidewalks, people have been building sidewalks for a long time. There's sidewalks everywhere, so, it's not putting a person on the moon, it's building a sidewalk. So, with that preface, I would move to deny the requested waiver from subdivision bylaw, section VB7, because the waiver is not in the public interest and therefore deny the requested subdivision amendment. That's my motion.
Second. Is there any more discussion?
just, my only comment is that I've only been on this board 4 years, and I find this to be a very, well, my vote that I'm about to make is rather distasteful, only because I've never gone sort of against the public will, and, I mean, we're all neighbors, we're all part of the same community. But on the other hand, I can't turn my back on the rules and regulations that were put in place for this town, for the benefit of all of us.
I too would have to agree with my colleague Mark on this one. I would love to vote to, if we had the power to give you a waiver for the sidewalks, but I don't believe we do. So.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. We have another public hearing, so.
Can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah, move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is updated, that's not finished before. This one's not finished.
This side of the street is going.
Yeah, but,
So there
I mean, if this is current, you only got
is
four
no applicant
landscapers that
here
you're worried about.
for,
That's not finished. I don't
Well, I
know
guess-
Okay. So I'd like to open the 6:45 public hearing for Burks v. Twin, file number 24-017 SBA-MAG, continued from July 16th, August 13th, September 10th, and October 15th of 2024.
the applicant is not here in attendance at the meeting. He requested a continuance to December 17th at 6:15.
You want a
It
motion?
needs to be open for public hearing. If you guys can move outside, that would be great. Thank you.
You want a motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I move to continue the public hearing for Burke v. Twin to December 17th, 2024 at 6:15.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to continue the planner's report. I think with E.
Yes, with E. So we submitted to, well, E is the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, expressions of interest. We submitted 2 expressions of interest this year to the program. Jeff Canton prepared one that was for assisting the Climate Resilience Committee with doing the outreach engagement to inform the climate resilience plan that the Climate Resilience Committee has undertaken and has really been doing a great job of moving that forward, especially since it's all volunteer-based. There's been a lot of progress made in the last year, and I think it would be great for that plan to have some additional resources dedicated to outreach and engagement. So I think we'd have to discuss on how exactly or who we would want to look at consultant-wise, but I think it would be great to have a dedicated consultant to go do that outreach and engagement, especially right now that we are it's just me in the planning office, so if we could get that extra help, that would be great. So it's just an expression of interest. It's not anything that, they'll give us kind of a tentative, yeah, this seems like it could be eligible, or they'll give us a heads up that, no, this is not a good fit for the program. And then the other one that I submitted was for stormwater, doing a townwide stormwater plan to prioritize locations in the town for stormwater upgrades. because we really don't have anything in place for looking at places like culvert crossings and coming up with a priority for their replacement. So that's what I submitted to them. We would, in the application and in the plan, prioritize nature-based solutions, supporting habitat restoration, wildlife passages, things like that. Adjacency to more vulnerable populations, particularly like seniors or the environmental justice area, and also making sure that first responders are able to have, make sure that, for example, like near a firehouse, if there's a culvert that consistently overflows, that those kinds of areas are addressed first, so first responders can get out and do what they need to do as needed. So those are the two that we had submitted for this year.
And you're submitting this one?
Yeah, I submitted both of them, but Jeff prepared the last one, yeah. And lastly is our one-stop grant application. So in the spring, we submitted an application to develop a long-range land use and neighborhood plan for the area between Fall River and Dartmouth, and that received funding for $91,000 to develop that plan. So we'll be looking to, we just got the announcement last week, so we don't even have a contract with the state, but I prepared this application with the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District, SERPED, and I will intend, I prepared it with them with the understanding that we would contract with them to provide the planning services. We don't need, if we use SERPED, we don't have to go out to an RFP or anything like that. So yeah, that's good progress on that front, because we'll be looking at drafting some things that we've talked about in the past and our zoning bylaws, such as a starter home district, and seeing where we can make some changes to our commercial zoning districts. We have a lot of land uses that I think are a little bit antiquated in there, and so I think we could update some things.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Like bowling alleys.
Good.
That's it.
Okay, I got an email today from Ann Gissinger. Are you on her mailing list?
No.
It says the time is now to apply for climate funding, an introduction. And I'll forward it to you. They're gonna have I think a Zoom meeting on the 24th. And apparently we're gonna talk about how to apply for climate funding.
Okay.
So, okay, correspondence?
I actually have this prepared. This is just the signature page for the decision that you have just made for the Bentley Estates modification, so I'm circulating that around for your signature. We had 2 items for correspondence on here. They're both Chapter 91 licenses, so we really don't have any we don't have any regulatory authority over these applications except to really acknowledge the receipt of them. But these are for docks on the Westport River, and so there's one that is a replacement, and there's one that is proposed.
Whereabouts are
Cabin's Neck,
they? Yeah.
I think this is the one that's proposed. No, this is the one that's some repairs and an additional 2 float piles. this is the cabins in that corner. And then the other one was off of Drift Road. That's it.
Okay.
This one, Bob, tells us how many docks there are on, Drift Road. As he always does.
There are hundreds.
You can walk from one dock, from Hicks Bridge down to,
Well, you can't quite do that, but you could, because almost every house has one.
Yeah, I reminded people between Hicks Bridge, south to the Fontaine Bridge, the Route 88 bridge, there's a dock every 50 yards,
every 50 yards.
half a football field.
Well, up in Adamsville, there's a 600-foot dock. I don't know if you've seen it. It sticks out like crazy. It was denied by the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission wanted them to go the shortest route, which would have been straight across the marshes and probably 450 feet. But they wanted to go up to a little piece of upland in the middle of the marsh. So it goes this way and then that way. It's about 550 feet. Said it was denied, and then the DEP approved it, superseding order of conditions. And they have a price on the plan that I saw, estimated price, $360,000. And it's been there now for 3 years.
Is that in Rhode Island or?
No, it's in Massachusetts.
It was built, you
It's
said?
built,
Yeah.
yeah. It's there. I can see it
Yeah.
from my neighbor's house, and it's way up in Adamsville. I mean, it really sticks out. And nobody's ever seen a boat on a float. So I don't know what it's for. So it's incredible. And it's all monopoles, so. Okay. ZBA notices.
The ZBA notices weren't on the correspondence of the section of the agenda.
There's 3 of them.
Not on the posted agenda.
Oh, okay. So, the 1180 American Legion Highway, that's long?
We can circulate that decision with you all, but since it's not on the agenda, I don't think it should be discussed because it wasn't in the posted notice.
Okay. Minutes of September 9th, 10th?
Mr. Chair, I've read the minutes, and first of all, it's a different format. I don't know who came up with the format. Nadine? I love it.
Don't sound so surprised.
This is,
I'm trying
this
to-
is really good.
Yeah.
It's really well organized, and it makes it easy to home in on the issues. So thank you for this improvement to the minutes. It really makes it easy to read and easy to find out what we talked about. It's very clear, and I read through them and found them complete and accurate. So thank you, Nadine. And with that, I move acceptance of the September 24th Planning Board minutes.
I second, and I second also the comments. This is really very nicely done.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
So
Thank you, Nadine.
What do you have on yours?
September 24th.
Yeah.
Matters, it says in the minutes section, September 10th. Do we have that also? Or is that just a?
Minutes of September 10th were approved at the last meeting.
Okay.
I just have it on
As long as it's written here. Okay,
the floor. Move to adjourn.
well, do we have anything not,
Yes. It's a sign.
Oh, then my,
The Mylar.
do we need a motion to sign it or just sign it?
We did have something sign this.
that's okay, we can have them sign it. I'll send it over to him tomorrow.
So apparently it needs the sidewalk on the high side of the road, 'cause that place took enormous amounts of fill.
And they supported putting it up.
Oh, it's 40 foot layout.
Yeah. It was 2016.
I think we'll get,
I think we can unclip that.
when you pick someone who wants to build.
We'll get 6 foot on each side.
I hope so.
2-foot strip and a 4-foot sidewalk.
We're still in session, so.
Oh, we didn't adjourn yet?
No, we didn't adjourn yet.
You're following, you didn't move.
So, I got a little question. So, Mike, kudos for getting all those applications in. I
Thanks.
mean, that seems, in this climate, to get 6 people to respond.
Yeah.
So, you do know that we need to get moving on that quickly before they decide not to,
Yeah.
so we can continue the good work that we're doing, yeah?
No, you're telling me.
Well, I should say the good work that our
Could-
staff
could
is
use-
doing here.
There's an additional set of eyes and they don't have,
I was pleased to see that you got 6 applications for,
yeah. Yeah, I was surprised.
Well, this is
Because there are a lot of,
coming up.
there are a lot of adjacent communities that are hiring.
Yeah, and we want to get on a winning team.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Everybody sign?
I think we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.